Hello everyone, welcome to the Selenium WebDriver training using Core Java. This is the orientation session. So I'm going to give you an overview of what we're going to do and how this training is going to be different from what I have done so far. So team, do note that this specific training that we're going to do, I'm planning to spend a little time investing into something I've been dreaming for a very, very long time. All right. So you will notice that, one second, let me move this. Why can't I move this? I'm unable to move this. Sorry team, give me a second. Okay, now I got it. So you will notice that there's going to be a significant difference in what we do. I actually am going to consider this one as more of a live training and a live project. All right, a live training and live project. So you all know what happens in live training and live project with IT Learn, but let me explain to you once again how we plan to do this. With live training, we basically teach you and we ask you to practice and all the concepts that are needed for you to master Selenium, UFT, manual testing, any other uh, trainings that we offer. We teach and we make you practice them so you become better at it. With live project, we give you an actual project that you can put it on your resume as part of what you worked, and this is an actual real-time project, and then we do a review of it periodically and we give you feedback. So in this specific training, I plan to combine both of them together. How and why? Let me explain to you, team. The primary purpose has been with the fact that I have been dreaming to build a kind of a dream automation framework for a very, very long time. And I really don't get so much bandwidth in terms of time to make this happen always. But then I felt that why not I involve a larger audience from my training community to be able to do this. So with that in mind, what I said is typically when I do the trainings for Selenium with using WebDriver and be it Java, C Sharp or Python, the current ones that we offer, I start with the basics of automation. Then we go into Selenium IDE and how we do element identification. Right, everyone? Then we combine how we take the WebDriver essentials and start working with the programming language. And then we start combining frameworks into it. Yes, this is the typical approach that we take always. So this way there is a strong foundation that is getting created, and most of your learning curve which you probably struggled earlier is getting clear. And you can tell me, team, what are the different frameworks that we've created in our training so far? I'm sure some of you are there for the first time and a lot of you are repeat. You've seen us in action in training and so on earlier. So what kind of a different frameworks have we done as part of a training program so far? I want this to be an interactive session, team. So please use your question and answer section to start replying to some of my questions. What are the other different types of trainings that we have done as part of a training program so far? Okay, I'm slowly getting the answers. Okay, I'm just going to read out what I've got and then I'll say, I hear data driven, I hear QTP, someone is completely new and that's perfectly fine, Mohammed. Data driven, keyword driven, hybrid, keyword, hybrid, new. Okay, that's fine, Samesh. New to automation, I'm new to session, absolutely fine. Completely new, sure. I see a lot of newbies, that's good. Description programming, have basic idea at UFT, new. Okay, so looks like a lot of you have come out new. Now let me ask you this: have you watched the video that I did on the types of automation framework and how to go about building them? I did this about a few weeks back. Anyone has an issue with my audio? I just want to make sure, because some of you seem to be, if most of you do not have an issue, because we have over 80 participants today in the 70 participants today in the session so far. So it doesn't seem to be an issue with most of them. Okay, so in the ITLN website, if you go to our archive, you will notice there are a lot of events out here. And in here, there's one event which talks about all about automation frameworks. So I'm going to copy this link and put it up. So you should definitely watch this video. This will give you a great overview about different automation frameworks. Now, even though you may be someone who's got no prior knowledge about automation, it'll still be a great thing for you to look at and learn. It's very simple, well presented in terms of the basics of automation testing using frameworks and the concept. Once again, team, I'm going to check with my audio and make sure that all can hear me okay. Any challenges anywhere? What if I try and speak louder or a little bit more vividly? Looks like everyone is fine, team. So for some of you, if you're seeing a lagging or breaking, it could be an internet issue that's happening at your end. So maybe you can check it at your end, because every participant seems to be okay with it. All right, great. So all about automation frameworks, this specific page talks about that video. It's an hour plus video, and it talks about all the different frameworks that are there today in the market and what we do with it. So I start with things like, what is a framework? Why is that needed? We talk about a linear framework. Then we talk about a functional decomposition. We then go into a data-driven, a keyword-driven framework. Uh, we talk about a page object factory or page object model or a page factory framework, and then how we combine them into a hybrid framework. So let me go back to what we do in terms of at ITLearn. So like I was saying, our approach has been this way. So we take a few projects and I explain all these concepts, be it about how we talk about basics of automation testing, IDE plus element identification, WebDriver, using any programming language and building frameworks. All of this, we present it not using PowerPoints or text or slides and so on. We actually start with basics and we keep building on them. So for example, in the previous uh, training that we did, Selenium live training, we started with a basic data-driven framework. Then we went about building a lot of things on keyword-driven and hybrid framework. And we ended with a code like this, a code that was written totally in C# and how we go about creating and building a hybrid framework that gets to the power of what it can really do. All right. So nothing to fear, but this is what we will get to. The whole requirement that we have today in the industry is for you to be very technically strong. But we take those baby steps to get there. Now, I was talking about this dream automation framework. What is this dream automation framework and where do I lack today in doing this? What has typically happened, team, is when I build any kind of a framework, are my drawings legible enough that you can understand? I know I'm not the best in terms of writing or painting, but are they fair enough for you to get an understanding? All right, thank you so much. And thank you, Tim, once again for interacting with me over the Q&As, because that's a great way for me to be able to knowing what's good out and bad. So When we build each of these frameworks, so what are automation frameworks? They're like a skeleton, all right? And they make things more efficient, reusable, and accurate when we move from a manual automation testing into manual testing into automation testing. That is what they really help us do. It's a skeleton. It's a fundamental set through which we can use it for any given application. So when it comes to some of these frameworks, the basic concept is very simple. We'll talk about that. Okay. We'll talk about a little bit about the frameworks, then it'll become easy for us. So what is a linear framework? Linear framework is nothing, team. It's simple having scripts for each individual test case. You have many test cases, manual testing that you want to automate. So for each test case, you create one script and keep it ready. All right. When it comes to functional decomposition, I'll just call it as functional decomposition. You create functions of something that can be reused over and over and make your framework fit into that. When it comes to data-driven framework, what is it that we do, everyone? And team, a great answer to some of my questions are, I don't know. It's a great answer. And there's nothing like a right or a wrong answer, because you are here to really learn. And I'm here to with a dream in mind. And I want to show you that dream and how you could be part of it. So even if you're not aware of something, you can always tell me that, hey, I'm not sure. So what is a data-driven framework? Right. Where you have one test case, like let's say I want to go in and look at a flight reservation. So for example, if I'm trying to fly using, let's say, kayak.com, I want to see how this application works. And let's say I'm taking a flight from LA to New York, and these are my dates for one adult, and I click on search. And I get specific results for it, right? Now I could go back to this page and change it. You know what? Not LAX. I want to search, let's say, from San Jose or SFO, and say, since I'm going from here, and I still want to see how this application behaves. So the same functionality where a user comes in, enters the origin airport, the destination airport, start date, return date, how many people, and clicks on search, but I'm changing the data and I may change the dates also. Then how does this application behave when things change? Anything that is got to do with financial systems, travel, anything that's got to do with specific data in mind, that fits well when we talk about a data-driven framework. Okay. Then comes a keyword-driven framework. What is the difference, or what do we do in this? XTD means, team, we are trying to run it on multiple sets of test data. What does a keyword-driven framework do? Any actions or activity that a user performs, we divide that and say that we will call them as keywords, like click on a button, type text, select from a drop-down list, select a radio option, check a checkbox, or check if an image is present, and so on. And we write our test cases based on that. We take one set of test data this time and run it against multiple sets of test cases. That becomes a keyword-driven framework. So what I'm explaining to you in a very, very short 10 minutes about frameworks, I have taken the same thing and explained it in an hour in that link that I've been showing you, in the link that I've put it on the chat. Okay, so do watch this video. It will give you a great overview. You'll find it when you go into our ITLN website under archive, because all the old events, we put them under archive. If you just scroll down a little bit, there was a new one called All About Automation Frameworks. All right. What else is there? Any other frameworks? So I see a couple of chat questions. Let me quickly try and address them. You see a black box appearing on the screen and again. So I'm assuming is it still there, or has it disappeared? Is it to the top right, team? It's in the middle. It's in the center. Okay, now is it still there? Ah, okay. So when I'm looking at the questions from each of you, that is when it is coming. Now, is it to the right side? And now has it gone? All right, now it's come back, I guess. So something with GoToWebinar that's going wrong. So I'll remove this black box from the center as of now and keep it to the right. That way it will not disturb. But then I'll have to break every 2-3 minutes to look at it. At that time you might see it. Okay. Okay. So what else is there? There's a page object model or a page factory. It basically says that everything that we do are around objects or elements. Let's create a map and put them in there. So how we as a QA industry have evolved to go from each of these frameworks to the next one, and then finally say, hey, you know what, let's build a hybrid framework. Hybrid is what? When you combine one or more thing, two or more things into one common output. Like when you talk about hybrid automobiles, what do we say? We talk about combining battery powered and a gas powered cars into one system. So when you're cruising at the same speed, battery kicks in. When you need to accelerate or change your gears and so on, the gas will start using. When you're braking, your batteries are getting recharged again and so on. Like a Toyota Prius and so on. Your Tesla is a pure electric vehicle. It's total electricity. Hybrid is combining some parts of this world to each other. So there are advantages and there are some kind of a disadvantages with each of these frameworks. And the primary level is to talk about the amount of effort and time that is required. So I start with, let me go back to this painting itself. I start with a project one on this linear and functional. Then I do another project on data-driven framework. Then a keyword-driven framework. Then I add project POM page factory and started making them hybrid off late in the recent trainings. So I'm covering this as part of the training. But my ideal framework is a super one. The super framework which can do amazing things for us. And to build that, I need to know exactly what kind of a framework to get to. Number one, it does have a data-driven approach to it. It does have a keyword-driven concept to it. It does have a page object model concept to it. All right. And it also should have something additional over all this. Yes, the basics of linear decomposition or sorry, linear framework or functional decomposition. All of this is a given. It is in any framework today you touch. So to combine them, this is great. So we'll have a feature where a user, let me write this thing in a notepad. With this framework, we would get certain advantages, or what kind of a design at a high level we're talking about. One, user enters test data in an external source. Okay. 2. User creates reusable keywords and calls them based on the test step. 3. User and puts the elements slash web objects into an object map. 4. A combination of all this is put into a new framework. So we do all of this as part of the training each time. But what are the additional features that one looks to do? One is totally, rather I will say it should be easy to be used by a non-automation engineer. So if a manual tester, a business user, a business analyst, a developer, or any other person within IT or business can work with it. They should be able to come and say that run these test cases. But before running, they have to say write test cases, which has all the steps, data, page object, keywords, and so on. And then also be able to run them. And finally, view results in a great template. I wouldn't say great template, I will say in a simple and informative template like a PDF or Excel and so on. Just for example, team, I'm just showing you what I have right in front of me. I'm not trying to really go deep into creating something for this session. So for example, this is a template where I have just 2 test cases. I've deleted the others because it was not necessary. And this is for the Interact application. I'm not sure how many of you have seen it. We have going very aggressive with Interact in the internal usage. And as this training goes, each of you will also get added into it. So if there's anything that you like to see about Interact, you can definitely visit the web page. I'm going to put this link in the chat. So any links that I'm coming across, I want to put it up here. Oops. Where am I? Notepad. Okay, Excel sheet. So for that Interact application, which helps us to communicate better with our about our trainings to our trainees globally, we have multiple steps. So in this, I just created one test case where a user is being entered. So if I need to log in and add a trainee, I can do it one at a time. But this goes about doing it at multiple things at the same time. And when you look at the test data, it will talk about things like, so for example, for this specific webinar, we've got over 1800 registrants, and I am still to add them into this list, but I just want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing there. So I have data like URL, admin username, admin password, trainee username, first name, last name, and so on. And we have the page objects which say which page, what kind of fields that we're using, and the different keywords that we're doing. So this is created, but if you see a lot of gaps, not the complete keywords is here, not the complete page objects here. Test data looks okay, but some gaps here and there. Test steps also a lot of blank. So it is made in such a way that it is not a complete job. And the fact that at the end we see results. I see results in 2 ways. One, for each test step that we did. For example, go to interact.com, click on trainees, click on add trainees, enter username, all of this information, enter batch name. Then finally we do a submission till this step number 20, or no, Oh man, how many steps? Oh no, no, no. It's going again. Click on till here. Okay, these steps is related to one test case. But for each one, I can see how long it has taken, is it a pass or a fail, and if it has passed, what is the error description, where is the screenshot for it, what happened at that time. That kind of a detailed analysis. And then we have a log which talks about every print statement that we use in the system that says, what did I do? Okay, step took so and so, executing test data set 15. We are doing this, we are doing this. A much more detailed view of things. That is the output that is there for this framework. Now, for a framework like this, which is gonna be amazing, we have multiple ways to do it. I have a lot of ideas around it, but I want to involve you into designing it first. Come up with a list of things that we need to do. Earlier when I used to do writing, everyone with me? Any questions while I'm doing this? I'm just showing you how this training is going to be different and what kind of a benefit you're going to have. So let me look at questions, please. I have a great response saying, so you basically want to remove the automation testers from the industry. No, I don't think. I mean, we want to make them the kings of the industry. We want to give them that superpower that without them, a lot of these things will take effort. It cannot be really reused, a lot of accuracy issues and so on. All right. Okay, looks like no questions. Let's go. So what we typically used to do, we say, hey, project one, let's start like this. Oops, what happened? Okay, I'm still in the eraser mode. Project one, let's do this. Okay, let's build a data driven. How do we build a data driven? Project two, then we say, let's do a keyword driven. Project three, or actually this is project one, this is two, this is three, and this is four. We spend a lot of time in getting till a hybrid framework, and we are left with an incomplete framework. Today in the market, there are many free tools which talk about automation frameworks. Things like that, the robot framework. How many of you are aware of what a robot framework is? It combines a lot of the similar concepts that I'm talking, but it still requires coding to a certain extent for the users to be able to do it. So let me put this link also so you can look at it and so on. Nice, very neat framework. It's got great concepts and I really appreciate the developers who built this. I still do see a few challenges or improvements that can happen over this or that can be more simpler than a robot framework. The whole purpose is to get users to really use it very effectively. Okay. It should be simple to learn and use. Okay. Then your own Selenium HQ.org is something like a framework that was built. The IDE and so on has been created with that in mind, a very similar thing in mind. That is what they did to create this. So your seleniumhq.org also is doing something like that. And you can just type and say or test automation frameworks and you will see plenty of them that are coming up in the market. Now, are we trying to build something to compete with them? Not at all. We are trying to build based on what we have learned so far and what we think will really help in the testing industry. And these are just the additional features. I want to get to a drawing board. When we start the day one, I want to use a drawing board and outline all the features that we would like to see in this. and then be able to take some of these features and say, we will put this as version 1, then we will move others to version 2, and then eventually what kind of things we can achieve by version X. We may not have all the answers to it, but at least we'll start. Then we'll start about a high level architecture. How do we go about building it? How should we build it? What should come where? What kind of tools, technologies, platforms, integrations that we need to do? And then we will start building it piece by piece. So I plan to build this from my end with your support and assistance. And what will happen is, let's say day 20, we come up with our first beta version. Okay, that has these features that the industry can take and use it for a no license fee. It is totally free to use. If it's totally free to use, what is the big advantage that I have or you have? Number one, we have the inside knowledge of how this framework is built and works. So you know exactly what is happening where. So you can easily customize / implement to any client and project. What I am trying to come to the point, team, is the fact that we have done a lot of this basic training so far. We have really gone through this. We said, hey, you know what, let's start with IDE, let's start with data-driven framework. All this is critical. But I'm saying, let's now go with a different vision altogether, where the output of this training can really be used. We've tried to do this in many live projects also, but somewhere we get dropped out. Now just look at a vision that I have, a dream, all right? Let's assume that a new company or an existing organization. Let me draw that vision that I have in mind. Any questions so far before I go into that portion, team, and start taking, start getting into the real Q&A? So a couple of questions that I'll answer. Shadab, I'll come to your question shortly. Question is very, very simple. Sounds really good, but how many lectures will be there? So I'm saying that I can't build this framework in 20 hours. Let's say each day we spend 2 hours, like I was talking about here. And by day 20, we have this beta version ready. So I don't think we can do it. So we're gonna spend at least a couple of hours more each day individually. And let's say we are a team of about 25, 30 people together, spending about 20 hours. So we're looking at about good 300, 400 hours of effort to go into the initial beta version. Okay, now let me talk about that dream that I have. Once this dream automation framework, and let's call this as any automation, anything can be, rather I don't know, it's a dream automation framework. That's what I'll say right now. Okay, how does it work? Let us say a new organization comes and say, hey, we have a new module that is put into our software application. And that module is, let's say, module X. So for this X module, they have specific functionality. And of course, it needs to be tested before it is taken into production. So they will write all the test cases and so on. Where will they write the test cases? It could be anywhere. It could be in Jira, it could be in Bugzilla or ALM or simple MS Docs, Excel, Notepad, Word, whatever. So the user story of how a user navigates is out here. So for each story, there are certain steps that are there. And the user also needs to enter some test data for it. And to automate, they should say where is that page object. And they should also say to the ability as to what is an expected solution or expected result, and be able to capture the actual result. This is the basic of any testing that we do. If this is the overall user story that we have, then we do this very manually and say, hey, you know what, manual testing, we will do it this way. When it comes to automation, I should be able to take this user story and easily make it automation friendly. How? Very simple. Let's say a test engineer comes, a simple normal manual test engineer. All right, manual test engineer. They come in and say, okay, I will say which module, module X. I'll say test case 001, and here is my test step. They will then be able to write what is it doing, like open a browser. Then I'm not saying how yet. I'm not saying what is the output input format. Is it in an Excel database or one of the tools and so on. Then they'll say they will select a keyword from a drop-down list. They will add a test data. I'll just call plus to add. They will also add an element identifier to it, or what we also called as a page object. And once they add this, it is not only a manual test case, but it also is ready for automation to run. They will then create all the modules or all the test cases for each of this and go into building this kind of a repository. Now their entire test suite is ready, and it is also automation ready. Once they do this, they get to a simple level where the step 1 is configure the overall test suite, I will say. Then the step 2 is to be able to set up and say which environment to run this on, or be able to select. Step 3 is to execute or run this. Then comes step 4, which gives us a results and says where did the application work fine, where did it not. And step 5 gives us a great dashboard. Dashboard like how many test cases? We executed 232 test cases, 25 skipped. Okay, then we will say that 210 successful, then we failed on 22 failed, and out of this 22 failures we had 3 critical failures, and we can talk about total time taken is 4 hours 15 minutes and screenshots for each of them and so on. This kind of an ease through which we are able to configure our entire test suite, say what are the different modules, what are the different user stories or test cases, how we set up a simple environment, run it, results, and then get a great dashboard to be able to analyze. And then finally, you will notice that this whole thing can be done using a web interface. A web interface where to do the initial setup of the test cases that we're talking about, right? Configure the test suite. There, they could enter this into a web form and say add, for example, new modules, add test cases to this new module. add test steps to these test cases, add keywords, test data, element identifiers for each step, then set up environments. All of this can be done in a simple, very friendly UI with a great user experience. So they're able to do this setting up very similar to something like a Jira or a Bugzilla and so on. But even more simple to make it realistic because we need to achieve it. And then finally, we talk about somewhere in this web interface, execute, like a small run button, and that says execute, whatever. While executing, we'll say select which modules, which test cases, which test data, which environment, and so on. Finally comes the results as to how this whole thing performed under these circumstances. So this is a dream automation framework. I don't think that we'll be able to create something like this in a short period, but we'll get started with a version 1 for this. Now to do this, I'm expecting the team to have a little prior knowledge. Nothing phenomenal that you cannot already learn from what we have within IT. Alright. Within our website, you will notice there are a lot of information already based as videos. The only couple of things that I'm requesting everyone to learn is one, the basics of automation testing using with Selenium IDE and so on. And the second is some core tutorials on any programming language. In this case, I think Java is fine. Once we build it in one programming language, we can always stick to the other. In fact, which programming language to use also we could try and choose. Okay. So I will share those videos with you, which I want you all to learn as a prerequisite. The only couple of prerequisites that I expect basics of automation using Selenium IDE and element identification. Second is programming basics. Either of them, core Java is fine, that should be enough. Third is all about automation frameworks, that 1 hour video. This is the prerequisite that I'm looking. Now, how is this going to be different from our earlier trainings? One, we will go with one project in mind. Two, you will help me build this together. So I'm not gonna come up with an idea that this is the only thing I have to do, this is how it should be done, this is what we want, and so on. I want you to provide inputs. It is going to be a group-based decision making. I will try and influence the decision by speaking sweetly, softly, or a little harshly saying, hey guys, no, let's do it this way. But finally, let's make it a group-based decision. And we talk about how do we approach. Fourth, you will actually put in your own piece of code. So eventually, once we have this framework, you will notice that, let us assume as a dream, all right, by end of 2016, say 10 corporates started using, all right, very small number, I'm just saying 10 corporates started using, maybe in the ones that are already known in the IT learn circle itself. And out of this, there are about, let's say 20 people per corporate in the testing world. So 200 users. Now, when the jobs get created and you put this in your resume or profile and say, I'm part of this build, that will add an extreme amount of weightage. It will do that. Okay. You know how it works, how to customize, how to use basically, customize and also train users around it. This is going to be the high paying job that you can dream of using anything in the market, because you're going to be a tool expert, not just Selenium WebDriver with any programming language, but also the knowledge of an automation framework that is getting popular. So for example, today you go into the market and say, hey, I'm an expert at robot framework. That is a great add-on from the concept of where you started, where you just have a Selenium or a HP UFT with you. That's a great add-on. So a similar add-on can be built here. Not that you know how it works and how it implements, you're part of the build as well. Now, I may have scared few of you saying this looks like a huge thing. So should I be learning or should I be doing this along with Karthik? And my simple answer is this, team. You start doing it, you'll automatically learn it. You start building it, you'll automatically learn it. And you'll become even better. And my whole approach of teaching, if you have noticed for the past few years, has been to make things simplified, things more uh, enjoyable, things more interesting, that you can really involve yourself and start working. So the flow is going to be very simple, team. We will start by doing only one framework, not saying that let's start basics, then go into automation, next one and so on. One framework in mind. And the coding may only start in day 4 or day 5. That is when, instead of me doing it all through myself, I'll start distributing it to this extended team. So with this overall thing in mind, I will start distributing this to the extended team. All right. So I have about 6 minutes, team, before another session starts, but this is the orientation that I could pick up. So I'm ready for questions. If you see a black spot or a box that is blocking the view, that is fine. I'm just reading the questions and to see what questions you have, what comments you have, and does this seem good for you to start working on. So let's see. So there was one question from Shadab sometime back where he was asking me something about, what were you asking me? Can you do me a favor? Can you, there's so many chat messages here that your message did get lost somewhere. Can you repeat that, please? The name Dream Framework or Super Framework, is it known in the industry or it is something you named it? So team, I have not even given it a name. I just know adjectives to it. I just know how to describe it, but we have not given it a name. We could name it something like called as an apple. Like I said, not really Apple, but we could name it something abstract, not even linked to it. We could name it something like robot framework, which says, it's a framework, it's robotic, it's got a very simple, straightforward meaning. Is descriptive programming is one of the framework? No, it is more of how you identify objects. Element identification and descriptive programming are very similar. As a new member, I'm trying to catch up on the plan you have. So is it going to be live online classroom training and then we will be assigned projects? Yes. So it will be live online, non-classroom, because I'll be doing it from LA and participants are going to join from worldwide. But it will be live and I'll be interacting with each of you. It will be like a project where we create a Google Drive. We put all of you into that so that you have access to it and we start working from there. Let's see. How many lectures will be there? Yeah, that was your question, Shadab. So yes, we will have about 20-25 lectures is what I'm seeing. But that is how we have to scope and say, what can we achieve as part of the first version, which is the beta version. Anything else, we'll say we'll move it into version 1, version 2, version X, and so on. So that decision as to how do we launch, at least the starting model, becomes important. Let's see. What programming language we will use. I'm personally comfortable with Java or C Sharp. even Python, but this will be one language that we can take and keep it, because once this gets deployed, then the automation tools, I mean, or whoever is using within the organizations, they will have to learn, I mean, use it based on that technology. So it's a tough call to say which one, but that is fine, since most of it is going to be fixed, not really too much customization that they need to do. They need to do real implementation. So any language is fine. I'm leaning towards Java. Can we use Selenium for standalone application? The example we are seeing are web-based for all the automation tools. Yes, absolutely. You can always create a Java program or a C# program and then bundle it together as a package and make an executable file. So instead of me having to go here and start each time, the executable file can launch a desktop-based application where the users are able to set up the test environment or what to test, or they're able to run the test itself. I just want to check if Manoj is there here, because we do have another session on HP UFT starting after this. So I just want to see, okay, we have another few minutes, but anyway, it's on the same link. So once the users join, I can let them know. So let me continue to look at the questions teams that you have, because this is important. Are all prerequisite lectures included in this training course? If yes, how much for this course? So yes, they are all included. So when you are part of the learning, let's say Selenium training, you have access to all these lectures. You have access to the tutorials that will help you learn, not only now, but as you continue to grow on. And you'll also have access to this one. This specific training, I'm not sure if I'm going to include it as part of the regular one or I'm going to keep it separate. That's the only question. But when you join this training, you'll get access to all the ITL and related trainings for that. So Selenium, whatever you see here in this page, will be part of it. Is there any session included with Groovy scripting? No, Priya, not in this one. The name Super Framework is known in the industry. Okay, so that I've answered. What is the result out of this training? So the result is very simple, team. You will be great at knowing how a data-driven framework can be built, a keyword-driven framework can be built, a page object model, a hybrid framework. You'll also know how our current framework that we build as a beta version will come out. And you can say and go to any new employer and say, hey, let's do a data-driven here. We'll use the same framework, but we can simply do a data-driven framework in this. All right. So that is the scope. Or you can go and say, you know what, let's implement page object model. So the users of this framework can choose what to do, which one to use, and they can very easily be able to edit or work with such a framework. Is this specifically for Selenium? I mean, are we going to do a project in UFT? No, we'll not do anything in UFT team. This is going to be specifically for Selenium. How can I extend the training? How to be part of the project? So you'll get an email, all of you, with the instructions to join. I'm sure there's going to be different things for it. So we'll talk about it once we complete with this. How Dream Automation Framework is different from Hybrid? It is not really different. It is going to be a hybrid framework, but just more power packed with features and the concept of how easy it is going to be for someone to deploy. For example, today, if I send this code and say, use this code, go ahead, use it for your framework, it's going to take a lot of effort for the end users to really go through the code, learn what to do and build it. Chaitu, okay. So I've been asking and I even emailed that I paid for the first Selenium training but could not attend. Can I use that? Yes. So if you paid earlier, you can use that to join here. But Chaitu, take it with the team. We will guide you with it. Okay. Are we going to learn testing or developing? Okay. There is nothing really to learn testing when it comes to automation testing. It's all about automation. So you learn a lot about development in this, not really saying testing. Testing is something I'm assuming we all know what is required. It is the basics of it. How much can I contribute as a learner, Kavita? You'll be surprised how much you can contribute. You'll be totally surprised because you will get a fresh eyes that we don't have. And those things together combined with what the industry requires is what can really build this. Can you teach Core Java too? Yes, Ramesh, Core Java tutorials are there as videos. And as we go about building, I will also explain every bit of code that we write to build this framework. Schedule what days of week and timing, please. As of now, I am looking at 6:30 to 7:30 Monday to Friday for the next 4 to 5 weeks. So that's a lot of commitment effort. Or we may do 2 hours a day, 2 hours 3 times a week, kind of a model also, depending on how we progressing and how we want to really take it forward. So the day 1, day 2, when we sit down and discuss, those things will get very clear for us. All right. Can we do course if we don't have any basic knowledge of languages? And I'm welcoming all of you to join, be part of it. Even if you can't contribute, at least you're able to see how it is being built firsthand and able to take that learning and knowledge uh, into your profile. Do we have Beath UFT data table functionality in Selenium? Okay, I'm assuming built-in UFT data table functionality in Selenium. No, Ayaz, we don't, because Selenium, all it does, it gives you the IDE. What HP UFT did is an amazing thing. It has given features for everything. It said don't use functions, use actions. Do not use descriptive programming, use object repository. Or page object model, not necessary, we have object repository. Do not use uh, any kind of a verifications in your code or if statements, use checkpoints and so on. They've tried to make it very easy, but people still want to be able to customize because every testing project varies. Every flow of a testing engagement varies. Especially with the agile world, they want to be able to quickly move on to from one version to the other version very uh, swiftly. Okay, let's see. I'm just looking at all the questions, team, since there's so many participants and interesting questions and really glad answering. So I'm going to take another 4 or 5 minutes and try and answer some of them. And then once we get into our first day, we will start getting deeper. Can we get assignments for day to day after class? Yes, that is the whole idea. So I don't intend to just say that, hey, you know what, this is how we do it. I will come up with the outline and say, now let's document it. And you should help me document them, as we may do it as teams or individuals, but finally we'll take the best output and start working with it. Okay. So at the same time, it is very important that we don't, mess it around too much. Can we use this framework for SharePoint projects? I mean, the usage can be endless. The usage can be truly endless, but again, we have to define the scope and really build this dream from ground up. It should not be just a dream that is still flying and not grounded. How much the fee for Selenium? So a lot of these answers you will get it directly from a pricing page, and I don't necessarily need to provide it out here, team. So you can definitely visit the pricing page. You'll get all that information there, and you can also contact. I'll have my team send that information too. I'm new to Selenium. Can I still join this, and how will I be able to catch up? Yes. Jayanti, the only thing is instead of spending 2 hours a day like others will do, spend 2.5 hours a day or 3 hours a day. Even if you're new to Selenium programming or anything, you will. What I intend to do is give you a week's time before we really get kick-started with big things. That will be enough for you to watch about 10-15 videos. That should get you the required input. Remaining all, I will keep training. I would like to join the QTP session for the next hour. Yes. Can I use the same link? Yes, Raji. We're already delayed in that, but since it's the same link, there may be people joining in. So just letting you know, we're still in the Selenium orientation session on the training for the dream framework that we're talking about. I'm new to automation and would like to get job. I would like to learn Selenium and Core Java. Will I be trained completely on it? Lalita Ambigi. So that is the whole concept. We will train you completely. And now it is your hard work and input and how you put things in that you will get the answers. So team, I'm still 6 minutes behind. I'm still reading questions from 7:30 p.m. at 7:37. So there are a few questions that are there. If there are any questions that are common or repeating, I will skip them. If there's something that's still pending, then let me know. In how many months I'll be perfect with Selenium? If you ask me, team, whoever beat, I believe within 4 weeks to 10 weeks, you can really master Selenium. That is my say. How and what is part of what we do. It's part of how you take instructions and keep going with it. I have no knowledge of coding as my background. So what do you suggest? If I actually do a poll right now and ask how many of you are comfortable in coding or programming, you will see that there are hardly about 20-25% of the people who will say I'm comfortable with it in this audience. So Mithila, your answer, to answer you, absolutely fine, because that's the whole expectation. What it seems for this training project, I should have knowledge of coding. Yes, you should, but very basic. Whatever is there. Then we'll keep using the same and keep learning from there. When does the Selenium Java training batch starts? This is the start. This is the orientation session. Then we're starting day one, I believe day after. I'll have to check with the schedule and make sure that everyone is online with it. I'll have to learn the existing frameworks first. No, you don't have to learn the existing frameworks first. I don't want you to go in and learn each and every framework. I just want you to, where is that prerequisite? Watch this 1 hour video that I talked about. Just learn basics of automation and programming basics for Java. This is about 4 to 5 hours. And the same here, 4 to 5 hours of videos. And you should watch it as a movie, team. Never watch them by playing, pausing, and so on. Just watch it as a movie, because we'll repeat all of these concepts again in our training. Can we showcase this project to give interviews in Selenium? Exactly, Sujit. That is the intent. We want to be able to showcase them so we can take them into our interviews and say that, hey, I've been part of this initiative. Manoj, are you there out here right now? Just checking.
Hello, Karthik.
Hey, okay. Manoj, you're there. So, Manoj, after this session ends, I will end it at my end, but you can continue with it for UFT and I'll rejoin. All right. Another
Sure,
couple of
Karthik.
minutes, I think we should be able to wind up. I'm premium member already in live project. I feel like I need to get training before I join live training. Do I have to pay separate for it? Archana, very specific case. Please contact the team. We'll help you out. Chaitu, please consider such thing. 2 hours will be overtime for working people. 2 hours will be overtime for working people. But Chaitu, that's why I'm saying, you see, I can't say how many hours. I'll say what do you want? What is it that you want to achieve? So some people are right now in a between projects or getting into or have free time. So either you're part of it, just watching it, participating, getting the basic idea and foundation, and then repeating it, because no one is going to get this in the first time. They cannot master it at one time. Even I cannot. It'll take a couple of repetitions overall, anything new that we do. So we have to keep working on it. So give yourself 3 to 6 months overall. I'm sure you'll do well in that 3 to 6 months period. Any plan to include mobile automation framework? Absolutely, Shradha. So we can also say that, hey, can we have integrators that can also do some mobile app testing and so on? So that is how we design the scope of what we should achieve. What is PHP in Selenium? I don't know, Rashmi, if I understand your question. I haven't got any automation experience or core Java. Can I still be part of it? Yes, Surya. Like I said, most of you have similar question, and that is how this is built. Shadab, yes, I answered on the mobile automation framework. All the lectures will be recorded. Will it be uploaded next day? Yes, all lectures will be recorded. They will be uploaded next day. And we will also get the source code for what we do in a shared folder in Google Drive. So you should be able to have access to all that information. What days we meet? Chris, this I will answer as we go on. Right now, there are two ways. One is Monday to Friday, meet at the same time, like 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, or we do 3 days a week and we do 2 hours each time we meet. So either one that works best for a project overall, we'll work on it. All right. So team, first time I'm coming up with this because I have trained and done so much on the same concepts repeatedly, because now I feel that let's do something that can be an output truly from ITL and from each of us and do something about it. So I have created some kind of a documentation flow around this. So what I've presented to you is about 20% of my overall idea and vision that I have. The real things we will start seeing in as we get into the day one, day two. So team, that's it from my side. You will have access to this video on YouTube. You will also see it on the website. You can watch it and see how it could be a great thing, not only for you, but hopefully for the industry overall, since we don't intend to charge a license fee for this. But my intent is to build it along with you and train you as we keep building it. So let's meet on Wednesday at the same time. We'll take it into the next steps and how we go about doing it. And thank you so much for such a nice participation. Thank you so much for all the questions. Hopefully I've answered all of that you had in your mind. And if there's any pending questions, please reach out to the team and so they can document and keep interacting with me on it. Thank you everyone. Thank you so much. We'll see you back on Wednesday. Bye all. Thank you.